A Begin in the Dark by Noha Ijiaki. Chapter 16. The worse your soul has to offer, and the better you will always choose. They came to the hospital as soon as possible. His Zashi probably broke 1 or 2 or 20 traffic codes as he drove them there. A police agent was waiting for them at the entrance after they presented their cards at the gates, where an entire platoon was stationed. He didn't even ask them anything. He just nodded and then guided them inside the hospital down a corridor. They walked through a series of doors, each with 3 more police agents stationed. They stopped in front of another closed door, their guide nodding at them again before leaving to go back to his post by the entrance. They didn't even knock. When they entered, Principal Nezu was already there, as was Ishiyama. Agent Suguchi was there too. He was speaking with Nezu as the 3 of them were leaning over a table in the center of the, probably, conference room over some maps and sheets of papers. "Take the shot as soon as possible," Aizawa heard as he and Hizashi entered. "It hit him in the shoulder. That was enough to shake him off before it could do more damage, but he must have been prepared because he got immediately teleported away." Nezu sighed. "It's a shame he managed to escape again, but at least he didn't finish the job." He hesitated, launching a little look into a corner of the room. "How's the little girl?" "Scared but unharmed," Suguchi was saying, but Aizawa tuned him out when he looked over to where Nezu's eyes lingered. Toshinori was sitting there folded on himself, his hands resting between his knees. He was covered in blood. "Fucking hell." Nezu looks up. "Aizawa, Yamada," he welcomes them, voice grim. "Do you know the ETA of the other teachers?" "We heard from Kayama as we were on our way. I don't think she will arrive before at least another hour." Hizashi replies, voice low. "Nothing from the others." Nezu sighs, his little eyes closing. "This is a terrible time for us all," he murmurs. "How's Uraraka?" "Currently being looked after," Suguchi replies, voice low. "Unharmed as well, but in shock, clearly. We have already called her parents, but they will take a while to come. A moment of hesitation. "We sent a car to escort Midoriya's mother. She should be here any second now." There's a good minute of heavy silence, interrupted by a soft knock on the door. The door opens, the same agent from before peeking his head in. "The mother's here," he murmurs softly. Toshinori gets up from his seat, suddenly stumbling a bit. He looks completely lost as he makes it for the door. "Where do you think you are going?" Aizawa hisses, putting his hand on his shoulders to forcefully stop him. "She..." Toshinori tries to reply before his voice dies in his throat. "Toshinori," Aizawa insists, softening his tone as Toshinori keeps trying to push over him. "Toshinori, you can't... Stop! You are covered in his blood." That's enough to stop him cold. He looks down at his own reddened hands like he's only now noticing. "Ishiyama, please help Toshinori get himself cleaned up," Nezu says softly. Ishiyama nods, putting an incredibly gentle concrete hand on Toshinori's shoulder, leading him out of the room. A sigh. "Agent, let her in." The man nods and disappears for another minute before coming back with Izuku Midoriya. She's sobbing, her red eyes and nose and the wet tracks on her cheeks, suggesting she's been doing that for a while. Aizawa gently guides her to sit down, her arm shivering under his palm. "Miss Midoriya," Suguchi says, infinitely kind as he kneels in front of her. "I cannot express with words how heartbroken we all are." He takes one of her hands in his, as her other is covering half of her face as she sobs and sobs. "Your son today has done something incredible," he continues. "His courage and ingenuity has potentially saved hundreds of lives." She tries to say, hiccuping. "They told me he's in surgery?" "Yes, he's currently undergoing an emergency reparative surgery," Suguchi murmurs. "The damage to his back had been extensive. Most of his skin and muscles are gone. Part of his lungs and spleen had been destroyed, along with portions of his spine and ribcage. They are currently operating a reconstruction of the damaged tissues and bones. She whines, folding into herself. He has lost a lot of blood. Tsukuuchi sighs before continuing clinical. His spine might have received permanent damage, but we will not know until he wakes up. If he wakes up. The words hang in the air unspoken. Miss Midoriya, we assure you that our most competent medics and specialists are taking care of him. Nezu intervenes, gentle, putting one of his paws on her knee. They are amazing. Your son will be fine. You'll see. How? He was just supposed to spend a day with his friends. Another series of sobs. What happened? Tsukuuchi sighs again. You surely know of the man called Shigaraki Tomura, he says, and she nods, trembling. Your son... He was walking with his classmate Uraraka Ochako when he must have perceived Shigaraki's presence with his quirk. He was following them, so he urged Uraraka to call me with his phone immediately, taking onto himself to lure Shigaraki away from the crowd. At that, another series of sobs shakes her, fat tears rolling down her cheeks. Thanks to his quick thinking, we've been able to intervene in the shortest time possible, evacuating them all immediately. Our teams were searching for him. I was there when we found him. He was defending a little girl, shielding her with his own body. That's how we got hit. Inko's eyes go wide as she looks down to Tsukuuchi, her lower lip trembling. Your son? He saved that girl. And not only that, a warm early summer Sunday like this. The place was filled. A sigh. If he hadn't been there, we might be talking hundreds of casualties right now. The silence is heavy on them like a stone-filled blanket. Miss Midoriya, your son. Tsukuuchi's hands take hers in a tight grip. He is a true hero. Aizawa-sensei? Hey, he says, gentle, closing the door behind him. Uraraka looks a mess, pale bloodshot eyes looking up at him. She has one of those space blankets on her shoulder. A nurse is gently keeping her hand as she looks quizzically to Aizawa. Aizawa gives her a little nod and she pats Uraraka kindly one more time before silently leaving the room. Aizawa-sensei, she sobs, eyes filling with tears. I could not eat Midoriya. It's okay, kid. Aizawa murmurs, sitting by her side. He'll be fine, you know. He's strong, that one. She rubs at her eyes, trying to angrily wipe away the tears. He was covered in blood. She sobs. He was screaming in pain. Aizawa puts an arm around her shoulders and she sniffs, leaning into the embrace. I let him go away alone with that man following him, she says in a rough whisper. Why did I let him do that? Nothing you can do, kiddo. Aizawa replies in a low voice. You both did the right thing. What happened was unfortunate, but you both acted in the right way. You do not blame yourself for this now, okay? But Uraraka. Aizawa puts a hand under her chin, turning her face up to him. We both know that Midoriya took the most sensible decision. He found a way to alert authorities fast, while simultaneously avoiding mass panic and protecting the lives of hundreds of people. I understand that it is terribly painful now when the person you care for has been badly hurt. But your actions today have saved hundreds of lives. Tears roll down her cheeks, but she does not look away. As your teacher, I'm proud of you both, Aizawa whispers. And as an adult that has been watching you grow, I'm deeply pained by what has happened. All we can do now is wait and hope. So do not blame yourself for things you had no possible control over, alright? After long seconds of silence, she nods, closing her eyes with a trembly sigh. Your parents will arrive as soon as possible, so I can keep you company while we wait for them if you want. Aizawa adds, rubbing her back. Midoriya's mom, she says, sniffing. Is she? She's here. Aizawa replies. Can I see her? Aizawa hesitates. Maybe giving that woman another kid to fuss over will take her mind away from her own son fighting for his life, even if only for a moment. Let's go, he whispers, leading the girl outside with a hand on her back. This is all my fault. It's all Toshinori could think. He had been guided in a dazed state out of the room. Ishiyama helped him getting under a shower, found a set of clean clothes for him. Toshinori stood a long time under the lukewarm water, watching the pink stream slowly get drained away, staring at the blood on his hands disappear bit by bit. Young Midoriya's blood. His mind kept flashing at him nightmarish images. Midoriya screaming, red pouring out of him as parts of his body disintegrated under Toshinori's own eyes. The sound of him choking on his own blood, unfocused, pale eyes full of tears, small hands gripping at him, not letting go. The way he tried to call him with his broken voice. A child, lost and scared. When he finally found the strength to clothe himself again and stepped out the bathroom, Ishiyama was nowhere to be seen. He walked aimlessly, his mind nothing but white noise, until he heard the soft sound of voices. He followed, turning a corner. All the way down the corridor, Izuku Midoriya was sitting on some plastic chairs, hugging young Uraraka tightly. Don't cry, dear, she was whispering, gently carting her hand through Uraraka's hair. You know Izuku. He's stubborn. He will be back on his feet in no time, and then we will have to knock him down ourselves to make sure he rests. Uraraka let out a little watery chuckle before sobbing. Toshinori watched, his mind nothing but white noise. Maybe he should go and hug them both. He was not sure. Aizawa appeared at his side out of thin air, apparently, took his arm, guiding him away. Inko's voice became barely a noise and then disappeared as they walked away. He flatlined a couple of times, Aizawa murmured when they stopped in a barely lit corridor. They've managed to resuscitate him. The reconstruction is going well, but they still need to close him up and put some blood in him. Toshinori blinked. Toshinori, I need you to snap out of it. Aizawa says, an indescribable note in his voice. I know how much you care about that boy. I know. But we need you. He needs you. It's my fault, Toshinori finally murmured. What? This is all my fault, Toshinori whispers. If I hadn't meddled in his life, he would have never ended here. He would be out there normal and happy living without having to worry about immortal beings and people disintegrating his body with a touch. A pause. I did this to him. The slap comes as a shock. Toshinori blinks, a hand instinctually rising to his cheek. I want you to remember this exact moment for the rest of your life, Aizawa hisses, because if you dare say something like that to that boy when he wakes up, I will do more than just slap you. The silence stretches, heavy. Listen. Aizawa sighs, putting a gentle hand on his shoulder. Maybe you're right. Maybe if he had never met you, he wouldn't be here. Toshinori flinches, but Aizawa continues. Or maybe he would be out there alone and unhappy, his dreams crushed, nothing to really live for. Maybe he would have given into the dark, ending up bitter and resentful, like Shigaraki. Maybe he wouldn't be alive at all, if he hadn't met you. The fingers on his shoulder tightened. What I'm trying to say is you can't know that. We can't constantly question ourselves with what-ifs. What we do know is that the boy loves you. You made him happy, you gave him hope and a chance to grow and mature in a nice, loving person. A person that today has saved hundreds of lives. Toshinori feels his ears pop like pressure has released around him. He looks down at his hands, his trembling hands. They are clean, but they still feel like the blood is staining them. It's okay, Aizawa whispers. You can let it out, big guy. You're allowed to cry too. He blinks, noticing how watery his vision feels. Oh, he is crying. She had fallen asleep. It's the only conclusion she could come to when her eyes shot open, and instead of finding herself being hugged by Midoriya's mom, she's lying down on a cot, another blanket over her. Ochako slowly sits, rubbing at her eyes. They still burned, and she still feels like crying. Of course she does. She has no idea what time it is, nor how much time has passed. There's a bottle of water and a little chocolate bar sitting on a minimalist nightstand near her head. She takes a tiny bite of the chocolate, but she barely manages to gulp it down her stomach, giving a nauseous churn. The water goes down a little smoother, an elixir on her parched throat. Abandoning the opened sweet on the nightstand, she silently slides off the cot on her naked feet. The floor is chilly, and in the semi-darkness of the room, only lit up by the glowing green sign saying exit over the door, she sees her bag sitting on a chair. She rummages through it, taking her phone out. The bright numbers on the screen. Her heart feels like breaking when her eyes meet her background picture, a selfie of her, Midoriya, and Ida smiling, one of the first pictures with them she had ever taken. Midoriya doesn't even have his little scar yet. Let her know that it's past 3 in the morning. It's been hours. Is Midoriya out of surgery yet? There are a ton of messages, too. She opens the first one in the list, Ida. Uraraka, where are you? They are evacuating the mall. I met up with Ashido and Tokoyami for now. I'm sending messages to everyone. Please respond as soon as you can. Uraraka, we've all met up. The only ones missing are you and Midoriya. Please respond. One missed call. One missed call. One missed call. Uraraka, I think an assault squad just arrived. Something serious is happening. Please respond. One missed call. One missed call. Uraraka, I saw someone seriously wounded being taken out of the mall. He looked like... No, never mind. Please respond. We are all very worried for you and Midoriya. One missed call. Uraraka, I just saw the news. The person I saw was Midoriya. Uraraka, it was covered in blood. Please respond. One missed call. One missed call. Uraraka, please, I can't take this anymore. If you're there, answer me. One missed call. A little sob finds its way out of her throat. Of course Ida would be worried. She feels horrible here, not knowing how Midoriya is, and she's the one that knows the most of them all. She has no idea if Ida would still be awake, probably considering the situation. She doubt he'd be able to sleep. But she knows her voice will betray her if she tries to talk, so she composes a text. Ida, I'm sorry, I didn't answer you earlier. I'm okay, but a lot is happening. I couldn't get to my phone. Midoriya is badly wounded, but he's okay. He will be fine. He could be dead as she's writing, for all she knows. She deletes the last 2 words and restarts. Ida, I'm sorry I didn't answer you earlier. I'm okay, but a lot is happening. I couldn't get to my phone. Midoriya was badly wounded and is undergoing surgery. I do not know yet how he is doing. I will let you know the instant I know myself. Please pass this message to the others. I will explain more as soon as I can. Love you. The other messages are in the same vein as Ida's. Classmates trying to contact her, to ask her if she's okay, to ask what is going on. She doesn't have the strength to answer them all, counting on Ida to pass the word around. The last ones she opens are from Mom. Sweetheart, we just got the call from the police. Me and Dad are going to come right away, but it will take a while. Hang in there, okay? If you need anything, talk with your teachers. We'll be there super soon. Me and Dad are just a couple of hours away. We'll be there soon. Hang in there, my little champion. That one was the most recent, just from an hour prior. Another hour and Mom and Dad will be there. The thought was already immensely comforting. I can't wait for you guys to be here. Love you, she says, letting them know she's awake. In the meantime, a new text from Ida came in. I'm glad you are okay. I was so scared. The news was so unclear on what happened. I have no idea what is going on. Please give us more info as soon as you can and let us know how Midoriya is doing. I passed the message to the others in the meantime. Love you too. She pockets the phone with a trembly sigh, padding outside the room. She walks down yet another nameless corridor, looking around in hope of seeing any familiar face. As she rounds the corner, a door opens, Aizawa-sensei and Midoriya's mom coming out of it. She's silently dabbing away tears from her eyes. Heart shooting up to Ochako's throat. In panic, she runs to them. When Miss Midoriya notices her, she blinks, surprised. Dear, what are you doing up? You should try to sleep some more, she tries to say with a trembly voice. Ochako shakes her head, squeezing her eyes. How's Midoriya? Can you tell me anything? She asks, her voice hitching in her throat. She watches the woman and Aizawa-sensei exchange a little look. He's out of surgery, Aizawa-sensei says, voice carefully flat. But he's not completely out of danger yet. He's in intensive care for now. Midoriya's mom let out a trembly sigh, wiping more tears away from her eyes. Ochako looks at the door behind them and then back at them. You went to see him, didn't you? She asks, watching them try to hide a surprised reaction. Can I see him? Please! Dear, you... Hesitation. You wouldn't want to see... Midoriya's mom finishes in a whisper. Please, just for a minute, she pleads, desperate. I need to see him with my eyes, please. They exchanged another little look before Aizawa-sensei sighs. All right, but only for a minute. When she entered the room, the blonde man was there, standing in front of the glass wall dividing Midoriya from the rest of the world, shoulders slumped. A long tuft of blonde hair hides most of his face to her, but it's not hard to imagine what kind of expression is on it. His right hand is splayed against the glass, as if he's trying to reach over and put a kind touch on Midoriya's head. She silently walks up to him, standing by his side, and looks. Midoriya is barely recognizable. Pale as death, purple circles around his closed eyes. A tube is stuck in his throat, smaller ones in his nose. He has tubes coming out of him from everywhere, she realizes. He's connected to so many machines, the sight is dizzying. He looks so small, sinking in that giant bed. And the only parts of his body visible in all that clutter are part of his face and his left arm, sitting on the covers, fingers slightly curled. His hand seems so tiny. She wouldn't have been able to recognize him hadn't it been for the freckles dusting the white of his skin and his curly hair. She wants to cry. She turns a bit, looking at the blonde man. He has a faraway expression, like he's not really there. If she had to choose a picture to represent the word sadness, it would be this man. She doesn't know what possesses her in that moment, but she puts her hand over the blonde man's arm. He jumps as if he just got zapped by an electric shock, turning to look down at her with wide eyes. Mister? She hesitates. You look really sad. I'm sad too, but Midoriya, he's strong. She forces a smile on her face, strained, barely there, ready to break at a moment's notice, but a smile nonetheless. He's so strong. He will be fine. So don't be so sad when he wakes up, okay? The blonde man blinks before his other hand raises to his face, hiding his eyes. When he talks, she can hear the tears in his voice.
Yes.
He whispers.
He is strong.
When Tenya entered the classroom, all eyes turned on him. He couldn't catch a lick of sleep the past night, and his body let him know that it was not happy. He felt sluggish, his eyes burning as he forced them to stay open. No one is laughing or joking that morning. He passed the word around to each one of their classmates, even those that had not been present at the mall with them. Those who did, that were with him when he caught a glimpse of someone covered in blood screaming, being transported out the main entrance in haste. Someone so familiar, their minds refusing to accept it could really be him until they heard the news and Midoriya's name being spoken. Look just as pale and unhappy as he feels. "Hey, man," Kirishima says, his voice lacking the usual joyous bite. "Did you hear more from—" Tenya shakes his head, making his way to his desk. Uraraka's desk behind his, empty, seems to be almost making fun of him. He does not dare look over to the other side of the class, at Midoriya's. "You know as much as I do," he finally replies as he looks at his phone that's still rudely insistent in not showing him any new text from Uraraka. He wants nothing more than to see one to read the words "Midoriya is okay" on the screen, but it hasn't happened yet. Tenya sits down as silence falls on the class. When Aizawa-sensei enters a couple of minutes later, they are all already sitting, looking at him with the same worried, questioning faces.
"I'm sure you are all already aware of what has happened yesterday,"
Aizawa-sensei says without even a greeting. He looks like he hasn't slept at all as well. Yaoyorozu raises her hand up. "Sir, all the news are being very contradictory," she says, frowning, before adding in a lower voice. Can you tell us what happened to—" Aizawa-sensei sighs.
"Shigaraki Tomura was there."
A series of gasps and little "What?" ripples through the class, silence falling back again when Aizawa-sensei holds his hand up.
"Midoriya and Uraraka were together when Midoriya saw him with his quirk,"
he keeps explaining.
"He made Uraraka call the police as he acted like a lure, guiding Shigaraki away from the crowd. We still don't know what happened in the time Midoriya left Uraraka behind and the moment the police found him, but when they did, he was fighting with Shigaraki, trying to protect a little girl from him. Midoriya—"
A moment of silence.
"Shigaraki managed to put a hand on his back before being teleported away."
Yaoyorozu's hands fly over her mouth as she pales, similar shocked expressions appearing on everyone's face.
"I won't lie to you,"
Aizawa-sensei continues in a tired whisper, a hand massaging his forehead.
"Midoriya is still in intensive care after undergoing reparative surgery. We don't know yet if he will wake up, and there's a chance his spine might have suffered permanent damage."
Tenya feels like puking, Tensei's voice rising to his memories. "Please, not again, not Midoriya too." No one is speaking. Aizawa-sensei slowly looks at all of them, his eyes betraying the pain he really felt despite his apparently indifferent expression.
"Considering the strenuous situation, your afternoon lesson is cancelled for today,"
he says.
"Morning lessons will go normally. Your teachers are arriving for the day. We will keep you all informed if something changes."
There's another pause before Aizawa-sensei adds,
"These are dark times, and now more than ever, we need to stick close. I want all of you to support one another, to look at each other's back, to put away personal squabbles and grudges, and offer a kind hand to everyone at your side. Your two classmates have acted with the good of others in mind, as a hero should."
A deep breath.
"Don't let yourself fall into despair. As long as we are together, there will always be hope."
Tenya did not really focus on the morning lessons at all, and he was not the only one. Whenever he would look at his left, Todoroki would be in the same position, his arms crossed on the desk, head down, face hiding between them. He would almost appear to be sleeping, hadn't it been for the minute tremors that would shake him every now and then. He didn't move for the entire morning as Tenya and Yaoyorozu occasionally exchanged a tired, worried look over his head. What do we do now? The lessons were over, and they all grouped outside class. Technically speaking, they were free to go, as no afternoon lesson was to come. Of course, no one did.
Ida, I think you should call Uraraka,
Ashida says, hugging herself.
I bet she's at the hospital with Midoriya. She can tell us where it is so we can go visit.
It was so strange to stand there as other students passed by on their way for lunch. Their day was normal, undisrupted, untouched. They chatted and laughed like nothing was wrong. An irrational part of Tenya wanted to scream at them, to yell that everything was wrong.
Midoriya is in intensive care. They won't let us in.
Jiro sighs, unhappily looking at the floor.
Still, Uraraka said she was okay, right?
Sato intervenes, frowning.
Even if they won't let us see Midoriya, we can still visit her. I cannot imagine how she's feeling right now.
The corridor had emptied now, just the 17 of them standing around Ida. Silent, he took his phone out of his pockets, starting the call on speaker. Uraraka picked up after 3 rings.
Hey.
Her voice is slightly distorted by the speaker. She sounds tired.
I heard from Aizawa-sensei the afternoon class was going to get cancelled. Is everyone okay?
That's what we wanted to ask you, Kaminari says, frowning. A little surprised gasp comes from the phone. You are on speaker, Ida explains curtly. The whole class is here. Her sigh is scratchy through the phone.
Hey, guys,
she says, her voice sounding like she's forcing a smile on her face.
Uraraka, we wanted to come by and visit since there are no more lessons for the day,
Yaoyorozu explains gently.
Can you tell us where you are? I've asked already, but they won't tell me,
Uraraka replies unhappily.
It's like a sort of top-secret place from what I gather. There are police agents everywhere. I'm afraid I cannot help you.
There's a pause before she adds,
But I haven't seen Aizawa-sensei back yet, so he may still be at school. You can try to milk the info out of him. The chances he tells you are pretty low, but you can at least try.
Thanks, Uraraka, Tenya says, sighing. We will try. You are not alone there, are you?
No, Mom and Dad came last night,
she answers.
Midoriya's mom is here too, so I'm not alone. Don't worry, Ida.
All right, please keep us informed about everything, okay?
Of course.
She sounds so tired.
I hope to see you guys soon. Love y'all.
There's a short round of greetings before Tenya closes the call. We should split up to search for Aizawa-sensei, Ojiro immediately says. No point in all of us going in the same places.
I'll try to go to the teacher's chat office,
Yaoyorozu replies.
Someone should go to Aizawa-sensei's personal one and the principal's office too.
They split, agreeing on going in different directions. Tenya was to act as the info relayer since he was the one who had everyone's contacts. He lagged behind, tiredly massaging his eyes behind his glasses. He wasn't alone. Bakugo was standing with his back against the wall, hands in his pockets, looking down with a contrite expression. There was something unreadable in his eyes.
4 eyes,
he says, voice low.
Better send me a message when you know something, okay?
And with that he turns, leaving. Daniel watches him go, silent. Who knew what was going through that explosive head? Bakugo was not the only one that stayed behind. Todoroki was there too, tense hands closed into fists at his sides. His eyes were casted low, white and red hair covering his expression. If Tenya had to be honest, he wasn't very good at social things. Uraraka and Midoriya had been easy for him from the very start with their openness and kindness, the way they seemed to just understand him, despite the fact he'd never been really good with friendships. And Todoroki was nice too, of course, but he was more guarded. Complicated. Without Uraraka and Midoriya acting as a buffer. Tenya was at a complete loss of how to act with him during such an arduous time. But it was clear that now more than ever Todoroki needed a friend.
Hey,
Tenya says, softly approaching him.
This sucks, doesn't it?
The word is alien in his mouth, not a way he'd usually express himself. Still, that is enough to make Todoroki look up at him. His pale, dark smudges under his eyes. He seems angry, eyes glinting with something undefinable, making Tenya wish he could borrow Midoriya's empathic quirk for a minute just to understand. I told him, Todoroki says, voice low and bitter. I told him to try not to die. That stupid idiot! I don't think I've ever had a class as stubborn as this year's 1A. Aizawa says, entering the room. He puts something down on the table in front of Toshinori. Looks like takeout food in a little square box, a pair of disposable chopsticks on the top. I have no idea if they are naturally like that, or if Midoriya's terrible habits have rubbed off on them. A mirthless jackal. They wanted to know where this place was, wouldn't leave me be until I threatened them with expulsions if they kept trying to get info on a confidential location. A moment of silence. Aizawa pushes the box toward him a bit more. Eat. Toshinori sighs, slowly sitting a bit straighter as he picks open the box. He knows better than to get on Aizawa's bad side, especially now that they are all running ragged. How are you doing? Aizawa sighs, sinking into an armchair. Not quite a question. I'm contemplating the idea of hunting Shigaraki down myself and squashing his head open like a mature tomato with my bare hands. Toshinori says, flat, breaking the chopsticks apart. A tad gruesome. Aizawa murmurs, non-committal. That's because you didn't see him disintegrate Midoriya's body with your own eyes. Toshinori replies, putting food in his mouth, not really tasting anything. If you did, you'd feel like I do. Trust me. There's a long stretch of silence as Toshinori eats, his eyes not really seeing. His mind is a mess of racing thoughts, prayers. Sensei, I'm sure you can't wait to meet him personally, but please give him more time. Don't take him yet. And pure unadulterated anger that was trying to bubble up his throat, trying to overcome him. It's always disconcerting to see your darker side, Aizawa says after a while, voice low. Sometimes I feel like you can do no wrong. I could do plenty wrong, Toshinori replies with a mirthless chuckle. My soul is not pristine. It has plenty of terrible things to offer. But you always took the better choice, Aizawa replies after a single beat of silence. And you always will. Consciousness comes back in little pieces. It's the feeling of something under his finger here, the sound of something mechanical there, the impression of voices far away in the distance. The pain. Sadness, not his, someone else's. A sadness so deep it feels like a single drop of water slowly but surely digging into rock. A movement, muscles twitching. Consciousness comes back in flashes, not enough to shake him awake, but still enough to remind him, even if only for a brief moment, that he's still there, lights flashing around him like short bursts of fireworks. Consciousness comes back in full force, finally wrapping its cruel arms around him, pain flaring into his entire body like he's being slowly cooked on a searing fire. Oh! A small detached part of Izuku thinks distantly as something near his ear beeps madly. I'm alive.